Good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Staff Sergeant Eric Stewart. I'm in charge of the Edmonton Police Service Guns and Gangs section. We brought you today to speak about the EPS first significant 3D print firearm seizure. We recognize that these firearms have been a significant media interest, and up until recently, the EPS has only encountered a handful of them in various investigations. However, in early 2023, the Firearms Investigation Unit was notified by the Quebec Provincial Police firearms team that an Edmonton-based man was purchasing rail kits specifically for 3D printed firearms from a Montreal, Quebec supplier. FIU subsequently initiated an investigation and obtained search warrants for the man's house and vehicles. On Tuesday, June 20th, 2023, as part of the nationwide enforcement day for Project Reproduction, FIU investigators executed those search warrants on the residence of now 29-year-old Roy Evan Tucker. The search warrants result in the second largest seizure of 3D firearms in Western Canada for Project Reproduction and includes several of the firearms you see here today. However, most significant was the seizure of a 3D firearm manufacturing equipment, including a large commercial-grade 3D printer, firearm blueprints, and devices that contained illegal computer code to print firearms, frames, and receivers. These items make me believe that the accused was preparing to traffic these guns, and we are hopeful that our arrest has prevented these firearms from making their way to the city streets. As outlined in our release, we are pleased to report that Mr. Tucker is now facing 43 firearms-related charges. 3D printed firearms are of a particular concern for police nationwide who are now increasing their focus on 3D gun manufacturing. As they are often untraceable and can be produced quickly using easily accessible materials and blueprints available online, these guns present unique challenges for police agencies working to maintain public safety as firearm-related crimes continue to increase. It is also important to note that these firearms may lack many of the safety features and quality control standards of commercially manufactured guns make them considerably more dangerous to the users and others. Finally, I'd like to share that Mr. Tucker was a lawful gun owner and was not on law enforcement's radar for this activity. He was not known to police. As such, we'd like to remind our lawful gun owners and 3D printing enthusiasts, unless authorized by the Chief Firearms Officer of Alberta, manufacturing firearms is strictly prohibited. While it may appear interesting to experiment with printing 3D firearms, it is important to recognize the potential consequences, including injury or death, particularly if the firearm is used for a criminal purpose. If you're found in possession of 3D printed firearms, choose to pursue your own 3D firearm manufacturing, or if you distribute 3D printed firearms, understand the significant legal consequences will follow. For all these reasons, FIU will continue to work collaboratively with our law enforcement and community partners across Canada to actively investigate these firearms to their origins. We encourage anyone who may have information about 3D gun manufacturing in the Edmonton area to report it to the EPS immediately. I will now take any questions.
Sorry, was David Owasic with CTV. Was Tucker known to police beforehand?
Not at all. Not at all. Not known to us at all.
What do you think, how many of these do you think made it into the hands of people maybe out on the street?
Our investigation is still ongoing, but we believe we were able to intercept and interdict these particular firearms and any others that he was manufacturing before they were able to hit our streets. That being said, I do believe these are being manufactured for the purpose of trafficking.
Darcy Robchan, City News. If you have the numbers, can you say how often police find a 3D printed gun on the streets when they arrest somebody, or how often they come across one?
Yeah, so there's different categories. There's 3D print, which is something you see here where someone attempts to manufacture or does manufacture on their own. Then you have privately manufactured firearms, which you can buy kits in the U.S. So we kind of have both that we're seeing here in Edmonton. But for some numbers to give you an example, in 2022, we seized 38 either 3D print or privately manufactured. And in 2023, we seized 88. So there's been an increase, and we're slowly seeing a steady increase. The overall number of crime guns we're seizing, it's low, but if you look at the steady increase of specifically this type, it is increasing.
And can you just speak about the Quebec side of it? You mentioned you were alerted by authorities in Quebec. How often does that happen? Can you talk about your communication with other provincial counterparts when it comes to gun trafficking?
Yeah, I think, as I said, this is a nationwide problem, and all of us police agencies will work together and collaborate to focus on this. This particular event, what occurred was there's an individual out east that they identified who was importing a specific part called a rail kit. And those rail kits are specifically designed to go into a 3D print type firearm. When they identified that individual, they were able to see that individual was then shipping those parts across Canada to different other individuals who were buying them. So that's what alerted us, as they got a hold of us saying Mr. Tucker in Edmonton had purchased so many of these kits. And then we started looking at an investigation that way. That's how it all started.
You said you believe that he was getting ready to traffic these. Can you say anything? Was there any suggestion he was preparing for sales? Any communication? Is anyone else under investigation?
Some of that is still ongoing and I can't disclose, but what I can disclose is there is a very sophisticated 3D print operation in his residence. There was numerous parts that could be installed on top of these receivers that you see here. And there was one fully functional 3D print firearm that we have seized and test fired. We don't have it here today as it's still being examined, but he had everything capable of making all these firearms operational with the evidence supported inside the house.
And given that, and that he wasn't known to police, do you think that there is enough regulation to prevent stuff like this from happening? Does there need to be some kind of regulation of sales of 3D printers, or where are we in a bit of a Wild West here? What needs to happen?
There is bills being passed in Ottawa to focus on specifically 3D print and manufacturing. Some of that hasn't passed yet, but there is definitely an awareness that this is a problem and we need to address it. I won't get into what laws are waiting to be passed for that, but there is definitely a focus that the manufacturing has always been a charge in the criminal code, that if you are caught manufacturing firearms, significant consequences for that. But looking at 3D printing specifically, yeah, the regulatory side when it comes to buying parts, I think they're working on trying to figure out a solution for that, and we're just waiting to see what happens with that.
It's Cabby Manitharan with Global. You kind of touched a little bit in terms of the numbers that police had interacted with from 2022 to 2023. I guess my question is, how big of a concern is this, at least for Edmonton Police, knowing that the number of 3D printed guns is on the rise? And are there any ways that police are proactively trying to stop this from going onto the streets?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. Individual that gets involved, it's not illegal to own a 3D printer and 3D print all kinds of things, toys, other kind of parts. When it comes specific to firearms, it's challenging to identify and target these individuals. With the handgun ban being out now, individuals and organized crime groups are finding ways to obtain illegal firearms. This is now a way, it's a cheap way to do that if you get involved in manufacturing yourself. Gun crime, it's no secret, it's a focus of ours in Edmonton. We are focusing on all different facets, whether it be shootings or manufacturing or trafficking. We want to stop illegal firearms getting to our streets. 3D print is challenging, but yeah, we do work closely with CBSA. Individuals are trying to import parts for these firearms. They do their best to alert us. We work with our local gun retailers. If they see something that's suspicious, they'll get a hold of us. So we're doing everything we can with our partners to do that. It's definitely challenging, but we're working through it.
And you mentioned there's some unique challenges that come up with investigations like this. Can you break that down further in terms of what those unique challenges are?
Well, I think the challenges is just like you identified, is trying to identify, right, this going on. It's not illegal to purchase some of this equipment. To purchase a 3D printer is not illegal. It doesn't all of a sudden, you got to focus your resources, especially in our world, in our guns and gangs section with our firearms investigation unit, on, you know, the high-profile files that are happening here in Edmonton, shootings, gun trafficking, and these are kind of under the radar when it comes to 3D prints. So, you know, we rely on different types of evidence, different types of information that comes our way from other agencies, other partners, but this is definitely a challenge that we're working on. It's not new, but we're trying our best to try to find better avenues to deal with this.
Jackie with the Journal. Is the suspect in custody, or does he have like trial pending?
Yes, the suspect has been charged and has since been released on conditions.
Okay. Is this part of an organized crime effort?
Well, locally, we haven't identified an organized crime group. But what I'll say about an individual who's manufacturing, what we've seen in the past and from my experience, and I'm sure you've heard me talk about straw purchasers, people with lawful gun licenses go out and purchase handguns, and then they're exploited by organized crime groups to purchase those guns for them. 3D print can occur the same way as they identify someone who has the ability to do it. They build them firearms and they start making a profit off it that way. So is there an organized crime group attached to Edmonton? Not to Roy Tucker, not that we've identified with him.
Okay, you've seized others of these. Have they been used in crimes such as fatalities?
Nothing that we've test fired has come back to show they've been.
Okay, the rail kits that are they legal in the U.S.? And is home manufacturing legal in the U.S.?
Home manufacturing is legal in certain parts of the U.S. Different laws in different states have different rules when it comes to that. Manufacturing is legal in Canada if you get the proper licensing from the chief firearms officer. So, but a lot of these individuals, obviously, we target don't have those licenses, right? But in different states, there is manufacturing laws, but there's also, it is legal to do some of this stuff too, so.
Are they detectable by traditional detection methods like scans and like metal detection?
What we usually see if there's suspicious or illegal parts, these weren't illegal up here, but they were suspicious the way they were identified in the packaging. So they'll identify the package of something else than what it is. Car parts, furniture, parts, and that CBSA investigators are trained to look at certain things. If it flags them, it makes, raises their suspicion. They open those packages and they're able to search and then identify some of this stuff.
Are you able to talk just about the guns on the table quickly? So we were told the gray ones are 3D printed and the other ones were just illegal firearms that were found in his possession. Can you say how those came into his possession or were on the street, those bigger ones on the side there?
Yeah, we brought those out because those were never registered in Canada. And what's interesting about that is Roy Tucker had a lawful firearms license. Roy Tucker, before the handgun ban, was able to purchase firearms legally, and he was doing that. Everything was done legally. And then when we go into his house, we find this, and then we have these 3 rifles that were never registered in Canada. So at some point, they were imported from the U.S. into Canada, and Roy Tucker was in possession of them. So we show them because they were never a lawful gun in Canada. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask, not having seen a lot of these homemade 3D prints, it looks like some of those, are those the best of what he made?
Well, what you'll see with people who get into manufacturing, whether it be guns or anything else, they start off, and as you can see, they start off and they are amateurs at it, and they get better and better as they go through it. But if you'll see at this firearm right here, were the rail kits. These are the front rail kits that he was importing and bringing in. Not importing, that he was being supplied. These front rail kits, when a Glock is manufactured, as the Glock handgun is being melted and formed, these rail kits are melted into the frame. So you can't remove them on a standard regular Glock handgun. Why they need these is when you build the 3D print, you need to install these. And there's only certain areas, certain companies you can get these from, and that's why these are important. So as you see, this one was ready to have the upper part of the firearm installed, so all the metal components, the slide, the trigger, the barrel, all those parts, the pins to go in. So he was in the process of completing this firearm. So you can buy everything above this receiver lawfully, and you can build out your firearm, right? So this is the illegal part, the receiver, and then when you build everything above it, that's what does it. So that's kind of how you see the stages, and we have some here where it looks like the stages of how the 3D print was going there for him.
So fair to say from the ones you've shown us that he wasn't inserting the slide kit into the early iterations of that, all of them have a slide kit in them?
Well, he had enough parts in the house to put slide kits and barrels into all these.
Okay. And is that component as robust when the slide kit isn't manufactured into it, or is he actually doing the same thing that they would do in the factory?
He couldn't do that. So that's why he has to see, you see here, he was taking a screw of some sort and screwing through holes. He would drill these holes out and then insert these rail kits. When it comes to the factory, they're actually melted into the polymer here. So that's why you cannot remove them from a standard Glock and take them apart. It makes no sense when you're buying a handgun, why you would destroy the handgun you're trying to buy, right? So this is how they manufacture it, and they install these rail kits, and this is how they install them with parts like that.
So it gets me to my last question. Is it as robust as another would be that was manufactured at a factory?
I would say this is a lot easier, because obviously in a factory, there's certain safety restrictions and measures that are taken. You can build this firearm in 12 hours. Someone in their home could build this firearm with the 3D print. 3D printers are getting better, but once you become better at your craft when you're making these, you can put out 3D print firearms very quickly. If that answers your question.
And then, sorry, even another. Is there a buyer beware component to this that it might fail? Or is there any, do you even know that?
Well, I would say that if you're not the firearms support section for the RCMP is the one who looks and test fires firearms, and how firearms come into Canada or manufactured, they have to run through them for all the certification. When you are not a gunsmith or that, there's always a safety risk when you go to fire one of these things.
I think you maybe mentioned it, but there's at least one that's fireable, or that was fireable when you seized it, or is there more? Or it looks like some of them are in progress. But
Yeah, so the one that we do have that he had fully functioning, it's fireable. We've test fired it. It works just like a normal handgun. You'll see here also, out of the 3D print, he manufactured this out of metal or steel here. This is a functioning firearm right here. So this was a 9mm caliber, call it a slam gun or something like that you could fire with, and he manufactured this as well. Kind of a unique thing, maybe something he was just, doing to try it himself to see if he could do it. It's interesting that he has this and the 3D print, and then also, the suppressor that he manufactured as well. So, yeah, there is, to answer your question, we do have one that's fully functional, and I have no doubt if he had more time with some of these, they'd be fully functional as well.
Did he have ammo on site?
Ammo for every firearm that you see here, yeah. Lots of ammunition.
What caliber were they?
So 9mm ammunition. These are typically when they build these Glock style, we call them. The Glock style handgun. This is similar with the 3D print and the polymer these are like. Those can be 9mm, 40 cal, depends what kind of barrel and stuff they install after the fact. But he had all different, because he owned his own lawful handguns as well.
How much ammo did he have, ammunition, do you know?
I can't believe he had numerous rounds. Yeah.
Okay. Are there prohibitions on his bail conditions, Mr. Tucker?
Yeah, he cannot possess any weapons or firearms now.
Can he possess a 3D printer?
No.
Thanks.
any other questions?
Stephen Leong, Nate Newswatch. From this situation, is there any more of these 3D printed guns that you guys haven't seized yet, or even just overall that people are making?
For this investigation or
Correct.
others?
For this investigation, are there more out there that you guys haven't caught?
We believe, as far as we could tell in the investigation, we were able to disrupt and intercept these before they made it onto the streets. That's our belief, and that's the evidence we have so far.
And I guess for others like seeing this, do you think this will become a bigger problem for other people wanting to make these 3D firearms?
I think the message is, and I think it's very clear, is if you're going to go down the road of manufacturing your own firearm and you are caught, there's severe consequences for something like this. Police agencies, provinces, our country, even across North America, this is something they take very serious, as these are called ghost guns. They're untraceable. We don't know the source of these when they're used in violent offenses and shootings. And that's not helpful to law enforcement. So if you're going to get involved in this, understand that if we become aware, specific to Edmonton, we have specialized units like the Firearms Investigation Unit that we will come down, and we were going to spend all our powers and all our resources to hold you accountable for that. So.
What is the range of punishment, penalty, if someone's found guilty of that?
Do you know, we don't know, it's hard to give a number for what comes out of court, but we've seen anywhere from sentences from 12 years to 6 years, but there's other evidentiary and other factors that go into those files. So specific just to this, I can't give a number of what's going to happen.
Well, we have you, just in case, do you have any updates on sort of the shooting side, the organized crime side on the Apple homicides?
I have no updates on that, no. Yeah, these are the rail kits right here.